Jon Uhler, thank you for joining Opinión Pública.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
You've been working to warn parents about how this furry craze can actually expose children to sexual predators. Can you explain to our audience what is or are the strategies that pedophiles use behind this trend?
Certainly. Pedophiles will use, first of all, anything to try to gain access to kids. Their objective being, quite frankly, being psychopathic. And let me define that just for a moment. Someone that has overridden his conscience, and therefore they no longer have anything to stop them. They also develop an increasing appetite for what they want. In this case, a sexual psychopath, and there are two kinds of psychopaths, bloody psychopath and white-collar psychopath. If someone morphs into a sexual predator, they have no conscience, and therefore they have no empathy, and they are not sorry for what they've done or are going to do, so they have no remorse. Therefore, they will use whatever means necessary to gain access to kids, since we're talking about sexual predators, especially pedophiles. They will first and foremost look for where kids are. Then they will begin to groom them, and grooming is simply little by little, overcoming resistance, little by little, overcoming someone's intuition to where the intended target of opportunity is not able to be sure that what they feel is going on is really going on. When it comes to pedophiles, when it comes to those that are interested in sexually violating and exploiting kids, they will, again, go to wherever kids are. The first place that I am most concerned about are churches. So people need to understand that. They will then also be able to adopt personas, as it were, to become whatever the person who's going to be targeted, in this case kids, needs them to be. So they will access, the perpetrators will, they will access professions, they will access jobs, they will access and utilize positions of trust and responsibility and authority to gain access. When we talk about furries, furries are big, fluffy, mascot-like suits that most of us would never assume. If you're a normal adult, we would never assume that somebody's going to use that to gain access to kids. But that's what predators count on. And that's all a predator needs for us to be able to lower our guard as parents and as protective adults to where we're not as cautious when it comes to furries. You take deviant men, especially those that have sexually offended, they want to cover their identities. And furries allow them to cover, these men, 100% of their identity. So now they are in a big suit. And I first learned about furries while on psychology staff at the Pennsylvania Department of Corrections doing sex offender treatment. And I heard this, and I had never heard of furries, didn't know what they were, until this particular very sophisticated pedophile who had done horrible things to children told me about furries and how it's the perfect hunting ground. He said, Mr. Uhler, you can't believe how parents will just hand kids over to you if you're in a big furry suit. They hand their kids over to you. So again, they're closing the gap. They're putting themselves in a position to access kids, and now they have found a perfect means. So specifically with furries, the danger is this. Not only is the culture within what's called the furry fandom highly sexually deviant, there's been enough evidence, very, very pornography filled. These are adults that are very sexually active, which is not safe for kids. Been a lot of arrests in furries. You will find that there's been a lot of arrests of pedophiles. And with their own, through their own admission, through Wikipedia furry, go figure, They say, now this is the ones that acknowledged on a survey that was done in one of their conventions. They call them fur cons. They take over an entire hotel. All these people dressed in big mascot kind of costumes. They took a survey, and 17%, so nearly 20%, admitted to feeling positive about bestiality. They've rebranded the term bestiality into zoophile or zoophilia or zoos. So 17%. And can you imagine acknowledging that you are into or feel okay about bestiality? You know there are far more than those that admit it.
So how does the pedophile establishes the connection with the kid through furries?
They will engage kids through a number of different methods, but often using furries or animal-like little characters. So they're interacting with these kids, grooming them, and a number of them will invite these kids to furries. So they're introducing kids to furries, and then they'll plan on meeting these kids. The kids don't know that they're talking to a pedophile. They think they're just talking to another kid at times, or another teenager. And so these kids begin to become aware of furries. It looks fun. It looks harmless. Pedophiles are very methodical. They don't come out right away. That's the snatch and grab kind that we're all aware of. But somebody that's grooming will do it little by little by little, and oftentimes they will make sure that the parents, little by little by little, are becoming okay with this. So they first have to groom the parents to cause the parents to lower their suspicion, to drop their guard, so that the parents are okay with that adult spending time with the kid. But in the case of furries, eventually the parents will allow the kids to go to these conventions without without the parents being there, without supervision, because the parents now think, well, these are a bunch of fun-loving, protective people. As a matter of fact, the furries are so sophisticated, so there's no actual organization. It's kind of loose, but if you go online, they actually have gone so far as to produce what looks like research. So research on how safe their community is. Well, that's rather strange. Why would they have to produce research? And where do they get their findings from? Each other. Well, that would be like me interviewing a bunch of sex offenders asking how safe each other is. Okay, so the method is very questionable at best, but I would never think, if I'm getting together with a bunch of guys to produce research saying we're safe, unless there's a reason why they want to try to tell parents that they're safe.
Esta fue la primera parte de nuestra conversación con Jon Uhler. ¿Y usted ya había escuchado sobre los furries? Siempre leemos lo que nos escriben, así que déjenos saber qué opinas sobre esta moda en los comentarios debajo. Los invito también a unirse a nuestro canal de Telegram para seguir conectados. Gracias por acompañarnos en Opinión Pública. Yo soy Pachi Valencia y nos vemos el próximo miércoles con la parte 2 de esta entrevista. Buenas noches.